Chapter 1. The Wedding. That wasn't 5 years ago. The smell of white roses made my stomach turn. They were supposed to be my wedding flowers, pure, timeless, perfect, until they became the backdrop to the worst betrayal of my life. Was 25, madly in love with Ryan Blake, the man who swore he'd marry me no matter what. My sister Sophie was my maid of honor, my best friend, my partner in late-night wine chats. She even helped me pick my dress, a silky A-line that hugged me in all the right places. But 2 weeks before the wedding, Ryan stopped answering my calls. My parents went quiet. Sophie kept giving me these vague excuses. He's busy. He's stressed. You should give him space. The truth came in the form of a Facebook post, a photo of Ryan and Sophie kissing at some upscale rooftop bar in Chicago. The caption, "Sometimes the heart knows before the mind does." The comments were full of congratulations. My parents? They liked the post. I was the only one who hadn't been told. I didn't cry at first. I packed my bag, left my hometown, in Pennsylvania, and drove until the highway signs no longer felt familiar. That's how I ended up in Boston with nothing but 2 suitcases, one $400 in my bank account, and a silent promise. One day, they'll regret this. Chapter 2. Building a new life Boston was cold, both in weather and in people, but it was exactly what I needed. I rented a tiny apartment above a coffee shop and took a marketing job at a small tech startup. It paid just enough to keep me fed, and just little enough to remind me that starting over is never glamorous. I didn't date for 2 years, not because men weren't interested, they were, but because every time one asked me out, I saw Ryan's face and Sophie's smirk. But something changed the night I met Daniel Hayes. We were both at a networking event in Cambridge, surrounded by men in Patagonia vests and women talking about IPOs. I was trying to make my way to the wine table when Daniel stepped in front of me holding out a glass. "You look like you could use this more than anyone here," he said with a lopsided smile. He was tall, with sandy hair and eyes that looked like they could hold a secret. We talked for 3 hours that night. He didn't push for my number, didn't lean in too close. He just listened. And for the first time in years, I wanted to be heard. Chapter 3. A different kind of love Daniel wasn't Ryan. Thank God for that. He didn't promise the world in the first week. He didn't flood me with romantic gestures. Instead, he built trust the slow way, remembering how I took my coffee, showing up when he said he would, and asking questions that made me think. By our 6th month together, I knew this was different. And when he told me he loved me, it wasn't in a grand movie scene moment. It was on a Tuesday night while I was in sweatpants trying to fix my leaky faucet. "Marry me," he said one night, a year later, while we were sitting on his couch, eating Thai food. It wasn't a question, it was a quiet certainty. And for once I didn't hesitate. We had a small wedding in Cape Cod, 20 guests, no big announcements, no Facebook posts. I didn't invite my family. By then, Sophie and Ryan were married with a toddler. I had no interest in crossing paths, or so I thought. Chapter 4. The Invitation. 5 years into my marriage with Daniel, I got an email. The subject line, "Family. Reunion, 50th anniversary." My parents were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary with a big formal dinner in Philadelphia. I hadn't spoken to them in years, but the email wasn't from my mother. It was from my cousin Hannah. "You should come," Hannah wrote. "Trust me, it'll be worth it." Daniel noticed the look on my face when I read it. "Do you want to go?" "No," I said. But 2 weeks later, we were pulling up to the Fairmont Hotel in Philadelphia, both dressed like we belonged in a magazine spread. I didn't know why I agreed. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was closure. What I didn't know was that this night would be the beginning of my quiet revenge. Chapter 5. The First Look. The ballroom smelled of lilies and champagne. My mother spotted me first, her smile freezing mid-step. My father gave a stiff nod. Then Sophie appeared. Her hair was longer, lighter. She was wearing a glittering champagne-colored gown and the same smug expression I remembered. Ryan stood beside her, looking older, heavier, but still recognizably the man who left me at the altar. And then Sophie saw Daniel. I swear, the blood drained from her face. She froze, blinking twice, as if trying to confirm what she was seeing. Daniel smiled politely, shaking her hand like she was a stranger. Ryan, oblivious, leaned in to say, "Nice to meet you, man. How do you know?" "Through work," Daniel interrupted smoothly. Work. Oh, that was an understatement. Chapter 6.
The truth, Sophie knew, you see, before Daniel met me. He had been something else entirely.
He wasn't just a marketing exec. He had been a senior partner at a consulting firm in New York, the same one that handled Sophie's company's PR crisis 3 years ago. Daniel had been the one to recommend her termination after discovering. She'd been siphoning off funds from a side project. She had been forced to quietly resign to avoid legal trouble. She never knew his full name back then. Until tonight. Chapter 7. The dinner table game. We were seated at the same table. Me, Daniel, Sophie, Ryan, and my parents. The conversation was civil at first. Sophie tried to smile, but every time Daniel spoke, her hands fidgeted under the table. "So, Daniel," Ryan asked, "what do you do?" Daniel leaned back, smiling like a cat in a sunbeam. "I help people fix messes they've made, and sometimes I make sure the people who caused them don't get another chance to make more." Sophie's fork clattered against her plate. Chapter 8. The slow unraveling after dinner, Sophie cornered me near the restrooms. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "Celebrating my parents' anniversary," I said innocently. "And introducing my husband." Her eyes darted toward Daniel. "You don't know who he is." "Oh, Sophie," I said, smiling. "I know exactly who he is. That's why I married him." Chapter 9. Leaving her in the cold, we left early. Daniel took my hand as we walked past Sophie and Ryan. "Good to see you again, Sophie," Daniel said with a nod. "I trust things are stable?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't answer. The next morning, Hannah texted me, "Your sister's been a wreck since last night. I don't know what you did, but wow." Chapter 10. The perfect ending. I never saw Sophie again. But a year later, I heard through Hannah that Ryan had left her for another woman. She was living back with my parents, unemployed, her perfect life in pieces. As for me, I still can't stand the smell of white roses. But lilies? Lilies smell like victory.